All right, final game of our Week 5 preview. Number 25, BYU at Colorado, 10:15 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. The storyline to know is, okay, how legit is BYU actually? So BYU ranked in the top 25 right now. Impressive 3-0 start to their season. They've won by an average of 38 points in their first 3 games. They are now ranked, which means for the 5th time in the last 6 years, BYU has appeared in the top 25 at least once. So a great start so far for the Cougars. But it's also fair to point out they have not necessarily faced the toughest schedule so far. They have not played a top 75 opponent according to PFF's power rankings. They played Portland State. They just beat – who did they beat this past week? I'm blanking on it.
East Carolina.
East Carolina, yes. Yeah, and Stanford, too, was the other game, too. But, yeah, East Carolina and Stanford. So, again, none of those teams in the top 75 right now. Colorado is only 2-2 on the year, but they are 55th in the same power ranking. They lost by 7 to Georgia Tech, a ranked Georgia Tech team in Week 1-2. So it will provide a good barometer for whether or not BYU is a true contender in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's storylines on both sides. You've got Colorado going back to Caden Salter last week against Wyoming and getting back on the horse, scoring 38 points offensively. And BYU, like you mentioned, now what you have is, and not that they didn't play, actually a tougher than you might think road game at East Carolina. It was kind of a defensive slugfest for a while, but for true freshman quarterback Bear Bachmeier, this is the first time he's going to be playing in a super raucous environment at Folsom Field with Colorado. Look, they're already 0-1 in the Big 12, losing to Houston. They want to bounce back and really get this thing back on track offensively. Big game for both teams. I think especially Colorado, they don't want to start 0-2 in the conference and really feeling kind of aimless here. And BYU, like you mentioned, they still believe they have enough talent to contend in the Big 12. We haven't talked about them a lot. We've talked about Utah and Texas Tech, Arizona State, Iowa State. Utah won 10 games last year. BYU won 10 games last year, not Utah. Sorry, that was some blasphemy. 11 games last year, including the bowl game where they dominated Colorado. BYU now, I don't want to say it's prove it time, but it kind of is with a true freshman quarterback, and they still internally believe they're one of the primetime teams in the Big 12.
Definitely. All right, you have the BYU offense with that true freshman quarterback and Barrett Bachmeier. What should we know when they have the ball?
I think what they've done so far is just set it up right and make his life easy. The best trait of all the things this BYU team did well last year, the best trait of this team is their ability to play complementary football. Their defense is still really good, and I think offensively, the idea that they've ratcheted up the run game, they've ratcheted up the play action rates, they have made Bear Bachmeier's life a lot easier when it comes to adjusting to the college game. Max, last year, they were roughly 50-50 run and pass. This year, they're 60-40 run to pass, 60-61% run so far this year, and they've done a hell of a job of it. Their offensive line has played really well. They're 34th in the nation in rushing grade. LJ Martin is the biggest component in that. 8th in run blocking grade, 9th in yards per carry, 6th in yards after contact per carry, and 10th in explosive run rate. So far this year, they've basically been a top 10 running team in the nation. And Bear Bachmeier, with his athleticism, even plays a bit of a part in that. But I think that's what they've done so far is they've scaled things back. They're not going to ask Bachmeier, even through this game, to carry them. And then once you get the run game going with Martin, with Sione Moa, with even Bear Bachmeier himself, once you get the run game going, the play action schemes are working. Bear Bachmeier right now has the 11th best play action passing grade in the country. The offense is the offense. They're going to run the football. They want the play action game. They want to avoid obvious passing situations so they don't put Bachmeier in bad spots in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9. So far in the first 3 games, they've been able to do that. I think early downs are big for BYU in this game. If they get the run game going, they layer it with the play action, they avoid obvious dropbacks, then you talk about them having success in this game. And again, complementary football, setting up their defense to be in good situations as well.
Mine's about the quarterback, too, is whether or not Colorado has finally figured it out at quarterback. So replacing Shedeur Sanders at quarterback has been a roller coaster, to say the least, for the Buffaloes this season. So Liberty transfer Caden Salter entered the year as starting quarterback. He battled it out with true freshman Julian Lewis, who was a really highly rated recruit coming out of high school. He won the job, though, but in the first 2 weeks of the year, only a 56.8 passing grade. He was actually benched, not for Julian Lewis, but for the third stringer in Ryan Staub. But Staub could only have a disastrous 40.6 PFF grade in their loss to Houston. So head coach Deion Sanders went back to Caden Salter this past weekend against Wyoming. And Salter played really well, had an 88.9 PFF grade with 304 passing yards, his most since the 2023 season. He'll need to continue playing at that level or at least near that level this week if Colorado's going to have a top 25 upset over BYU. Right now, BYU has a top 40 coverage grade in the country. They've only given up an explosive pass on 10.6% of their plays. That's top 40 in the country, right at 38th in the country. That will be pivotal, though, in this game against a quarterback in Caden Salter who wants to take those deep shots down the field. His average depth of target is 10.5 yards. That's the 28th highest in the country. Also, keeping contained on Caden Salter is key in this one too, because he's a guy who loves to hold onto the football, break pockets, even scramble when he needs to. He's got really good mobility too. Right now, Caden Salter holds onto the ball for 3.46 seconds on average. That's easily the highest in college football too. So getting pressure on Caden Salter, keeping contained, rushing with lane integrity too will be pivotal for BYU's defense in this game.
That's a great call, is the lane integrity. Anytime you have a quarterback that clearly, look, Caden Salter is more comfortable improvising outside the pocket than he is throwing in the rhythm of this offense. And I think it's been a problem for Colorado's offense and what Pat Shurmur can do with what he can and should do with Caden Salter, I should say, when you talk about that sort of thing where it's just everything feels improvised, right? And it's not the same as last year with Shedeur Sanders where he's so accurate and there's times where he's playing within rhythm. You have to find a way to contain him, because if you do and you keep him in the pocket, probably going to have some issues, right? And I think two guys that could do that, especially one that rushes the passer a decent amount. When you talk about Jack Kelly, the linebacker, Isaiah Glasker is a freak athlete. I think that's the type of guy you could put as a spy on Salter and use his athleticism to your advantage. So I think that's going to be a big key. Salter can improvise. He can take those deep shots. He's got a big arm for a guy who's not that big. I think that's going to be a big key, is that BYU is going to go, listen, make him beat you in the box here, in the pocket, and he hasn't shown yet necessarily that he can do that.
Ultimately, Dalton, will Colorado get a big home upset, or will BYU prove why they're a top 25 team right now?
I like BYU on the road in this game. I really like just the complementary football they play. I still think they have a lot of talent on defense. You've got Glasker and Kelly, two outstanding linebackers. Evan Johnson with two big interceptions last week, including a pick six. The things that concern me, there's two things that concern me with Colorado, and they're two pretty big things. One, 2 games against Power 4 teams. Georgia Tech and Houston. In those 2 games, they gave up 550 rushing yards. 330 against Georgia Tech, 220 against Houston. Not good. Okay, and BYU, they want to run the football with LJ Martin and these guys up front. 2, Colorado has the 3rd worst coverage grade in the Power 4. And we knew this team last year with Travis Hunter and those guys as a constant of, okay, at least they can cover. They're going to get in this man-to-man coverage. They're going to be able to cover. The only 2 teams with a worse coverage grade in the Power 4 are Virginia Tech and UCLA. And those 2 teams don't have their head coaches anymore. So if this could get up to be a really bad scenario for Colorado if they first don't stop the run better than they did in the first those 2 games against Georgia Tech and Houston. And then again, if BYU gets into the play action, those layers, that second layer of their offense where Bachmeier has been really, really good. There's bootlegs. He likes the straight play action, even in the shotgun. He's looked good so far throwing those play action passes. If BYU gets the full depth of their offense, I'm extremely worried. I think this will be a bit more of a close to the vest defensive game. You still have a true freshman quarterback going into a very hostile environment. I've got it 24-17 BYU. I think their defense is the best unit on the field.
Yeah, I have it 27-23 BYU in this one too. I think 2 guys that you called out there, and also Cade Kirshner, shout out him in the chat too. He said Isaiah Glasker and Jack Kelly are the real deal. They will be huge in keeping contained on Caden Salter in this game too. Now, I will say, although people are kind of selling all stock in Colorado right now, and I get it, they've lost 2 games, I think that Colorado's got a shot in this game. I think Caden Salter, maybe if he found something in that Wyoming game, we saw, even Jalen Milroe at times last year after getting benched, or a couple years ago, I should say, after getting benched, comes back in, looks great the rest of the year. Caden Salter, maybe after getting benched for one game, maybe he comes back and has learned from his mistakes because he had a great game against Wyoming. Now, it's a different test this week against BYU, but I do think Colorado's got a shot in this game. I don't think it's going to be BYU just rolling over them in this one, especially in an environment like Boulder, Colorado at night either in a big game. So Colorado's got a shot. I do have BYU winning, though, 27-23. And going into Boulder, getting a tough road win and giving Colorado their third loss of the season. But again, I think the Buffaloes do have a chance at pulling off the upset.
So one big thing also to keep track of during the week, this is obviously only Tuesday. The game's not till Saturday night. Injuries to keep track of for Colorado. Coach Prime Deion Sanders says he's expecting Jordan Seaton to play. He's dealing with an injury right now, but he's not sure on his running backs to Kalen Taylor and Simeon Price. They could be shorthanded in the backfield too if it's just Micah Welsh back there. And I know they like this rotation of backs. I like Welsh as a player, but they've been going with multiple guys. The injuries for Colorado right now are something to watch.
And that's even more pressure on Salter as a runner if those two are out too. So, yeah, that's a good call right there. So, yeah, both have BYU winning this game, but again, it should be a really, really fun ball game late at night after what should be two incredible games between Oregon and Penn State and Georgia and Bam, and, of course, Arizona and Iowa State too. And then the nightcap will be BYU, Colorado.